And next, our last speaker we have is Ritchse. So
Hi.
welcome, Ritchse.
Hello, how's everyone doing? Okay, I'm ritchse or Richie or ritchse. I don't really care how people pronounce it. Um, yeah, so I don't know what bit me, but I kind of forgot that people used to like talk about themselves in the first part of the of a presentation, and didn't really prepare anything about myself, so I don't know what to say about myself. Um, so yeah, I may just say that well, I started programming 3 4 years ago. I don't know, time is kind of messed up, but yeah, I'm still a high school student. I go to a high school which specifies in programming. Most of my programming experience is in Java. I'm just right now starting to learn JavaScript, and one of the first things that I did is this thing that I'll show now. Um, so yeah, I'll just start sharing my screen. Um, there you go. Why doesn't the there? Hmm. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, okay. So yeah, this is Hydra Antlia, which is a library basically that I made for Hydra. Um, it has various functions, uh, but yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about it like chronologically. So yeah, I'll start with telling you like how the idea came up first. Um, so um, one day, I I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I was kind of uh, without any inspirations to what to do in Hydra, so I just had Hydra open there, and I started like experimenting with shapes, and I decided to start drawing flags. I don't know why, but I just started doing it. Um, so yeah, for example, if I wanted to do the flag of my country, Argentina, I would do like, okay, have this solid with the sky blue, and then add this. And this is very simple code, but you may imagine that when you already are getting into some problems. Like for example, this circle that, well, first of all, it should be a sun, but let's just say this circle. It's not really a circle; it's like an oval, and also you have to layer it and have the luma at the end so that the um, the the black part doesn't shows up, you know. Um, and then it when I started doing more flags, I don't know why, but for example, I tried to do the flag of Great Britain, and it was so much code just to do it. So I decided to start making functions for it, and so one of the first thing I did is like make circles be actual circles, no matter what the resolution of your screen is. So I just get the radio of the screen um, and show a perfect circle. So yeah, I started making some function. I did this function for horizontal lines, and I did this circle function, which takes a size. But well, I was working with a lot of colors, so I I was wondering if there was like an easier way to do color because um, it's it's really sometimes it's really not intuitive to to first of all, if you're accustomed to, for example, hex, or just thinking about the colors you are making digitally from 0 to 255, um suddenly having to wait sorry suddenly having to think it as 0 to 1, if you haven't done like any um WebGL or anything like that, it's really counterintuitive. So I started thinking about using colors as arrays. So for example, I made this function solid underscore. uh, and I started defining colors. Like for example, this is dark red, and this is just an array that I defined. I could also do any color and maybe just some random stuff. Whoops. Add any color here. Yeah, I also did a color underscore. As you see here, this is an mouse, but with a lavender color. Um, and then that got me into doing manipulation of those arrays and what cool things you could do with them. Like, oh, and also making sure that every other function that I made for shapes, like for the horizontal lines and the circles and more stuff that I'm gonna show later, um, could accept those colors. So you could write very simple stuff. Like for example, this one here, this is like the color purple. I just say, okay, just solid purple, and then layer a circle with this size with the color purple, but give me the composite color of purple. If you don't know what composite color is, it's basically the contrary color. So as you see um, here, purple is 0.501, but the composite is 0.510. So the yeah, I don't know really how to say this in English, but I think the idea gets through. Then you have triadic color, for example here, which basically rotates the array. Uh, so let's say if you have like red, which is a little bit more uh, the triadic color will be the next, would be green. So you have this, and the next one would be blue. Um, and the cool thing that I started doing lately, because this would not work um, a while ago, you can you can use arrays of arrays, and well, the first start of doing this was thanks to V21, who I don't know if they're here, uh, but they helped me getting to start work with it because I didn't know how to do it. So yeah, you can just change the color and it change over time like you would expect it. And you can even make it smooth. So that's great. You can also have color averages. For example, the color average between red, orange, and white. Or you have red, and you want the average with yellow of it. Or you have again an array, and it'll just keep changing. And again, you can do smooth, you can do fast, and everything like that. I also did this function that is inverse colors. Like this doesn't has much sense outside of shadering and Hydra. Basically, it just multiplies every value by -1, which is cool when you have this different stuff. Like if you do uh, the differentiation with some color, it's very different having the color and the negative color per se. It gives it different result. It's just something nice to experiment with. And then something that I really wanted to have was getting colors from hex values. So you can choose like copy whatever hex color you used anywhere or you found anywhere, and you can just insert it. So here we have like this hex color, assign it to this star color that we'll use later, and just the star, we assign it this color, that color. The star function here is another one of the shapes I did. I'll show it a bit more later. I also made this hex palette thing, which just takes any argument of a lot of hex colors, and you can just call it as any array. And well, and also if you don't call a specific item in that array, it will do the changing over time too. So this is nice when you have like a sort of palette you found online. One thing very important about Antlia right now is that it's not RGBA. And the real reason behind that is that when I started Hydra Antlia, I didn't realize that that Hydra itself used RGBA. So right now I'm working with it with this wasteful form, but well, it's a work in progress. It'll get better over time. I'll be sure to add the RGBA functionality. But yeah, I just have like this opacity function, or its alias up. You can also go like this. Um, yeah, it just does what you would expect. I also made this apply color function, which takes something. Um, it's similar to the color function, but works differently. Maybe this is not the best example, but if you use it with a picture, you will realize what it does. Because before applying the coloring, it makes the image black and white, so that the only color in the image is basically a gradient from black to that color. And then we have this is that is the contrary from that color to white. So yeah, um, I like to know how my timing is right now. Just if you
There's
can
five
just tell me.
minutes left, so
Okay.
however you want to,
Well, I just do
whatever
a
you want to do.
fast thing about the shapes, which are like very simple. Uh, we have strips, lines, however you want to call them. We have horizontal, vertical, the left diagonal, and the right diagonal, and you can just like first argument is the size, and then you can put any color, and next argument is position, and so on. And then we have circle again, size, color, x, y, square. It's just a perfect square. I also have rectangle where the second argument is actually the ratio. Uh, so yeah, this is like a 4-3 rectangle. It could also be a 4-5. We have triangles, which was actually a little bit harder than I expected, because when you have triangles in Hydra, uh, like they show up like this, which if you're doing like geometric stuff is not what you wanted. That's not what you want. But well, I mean, it's all shadering, so it's not made specifically for geometric stuff. So you had to force it a little bit. I also had this quadrant, like the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant, and also had this squad function, which is basically the same, but if you just want to use it generically and just hey, I want the first quadrant, I just put 0 and and so on. Wait, some extra ones. This is just a star. The second argument is the amount of I don't know how to call them sites. No, I don't know how to call them. I don't know how it's said in English, but yeah, CC 4, 5, and so on. And it can actually be modulated. It's a bit weird, but I also have a grid. Um, this is the amount of x squares, the amount of y. This is the boldness, basically. If I make this higher, there's some math stuff too, like making some automation simpler. Like for example, this is a sine function, which is written in a more simpler way. Well, there's also one for randomness, which is arranged. This will give me anything from 20 to 80. We also have a saw oscillator. It takes the same arguments as sin. We have this very weird one that I just did because I wanted to make stuff bounce. That just bounces. And there's also some ranged oscillators, which basically, yeah, take the x, which here's time, and you can just give them like the minimum, the maximum, and the frequency, and it just works the same with cos and cosine and so oscillators. And the fun part for me, the most fun part for me is interactivity, making interactivity simpler. So for example, here we have a circle with a white color, but the x position is given by the mouse and the y position is given by the mouse. So if I had a code, it will just follow me. So it's just like a very simple way of writing that. And I also made this function follow mouse, if because it just looks cleaner. Um, we also have click. If you listen to the variable click, when you click, I'm gonna click. it goes from 0 to 1. So you can use it to have interactive stuff that when you click, it does stuff. And a nice example I like is drawing. Basically, you have a circle and you move and you have it follow the mouse. And when you click, you ask it to add, so that you can draw. And there's also some stuff for keyboard. The same way as click goes from 0 to 1, you can use the arrow keys. Here I'm pressing up, as you see. And if I press up and down, it does different stuff. The same for left and right. You just say key dot up, down, or whatever. And then I also implemented this thanks to, again, with help from Juan FDS from Click, because when I started, I didn't know any JavaScript, so I didn't even know how to set intervals. So yeah, this is a set interval basically. I had it apart so that you have to make it like startup, because it consumes processing, because it's constantly checking like every like 30 frames per second what you're doing with your arrow keys. But basically, if you press up, the y-axis will go up. If you press down, it will go down. If you press left, the x-axis will go. Well, I can't remember if down or up, but it just moves stuff. Like for example, here I can move a star just with my arrow keys in my keyboard. But something nicer is to just control a whole sketch as if it gives like a feel as if you were using knobs in just like in modular video synthesis, which is really nice. And you can just control your sketches with the arrow keys. And here's just something that I wanted to know that works. I don't know why, but basically you can just blend like all the operators. You can just send it a color and it works. I don't know why. I'm guessing it has to do with how Hydra takes the arguments. But yeah, that also works. And that's it. I'm guessing I have no time left, but maybe there's time for one question. I don't know.
Yeah, that was over time a bit, but it was or exactly on time. Thank you so much, Ritchse. That was amazing. And I think for questions, because we have this nice 2D hangout space after, so if people want to ask questions, you should find Ritchse in the 2D hangout space and ask questions about Antlia.
Sure.
And I mention this, I think almost every meetup, but my kind of plan for things like this, because I think there's so many amazing ideas here and some of them could be part of Hydra core. But it's hard to add new things because there's so many kind of dependencies and stuff like that. But my plan is to make it easier to import external scripts at the beginning of a Hydra sketch. And then hopefully work some of these things into like the core libraries as well. But that was an amazing talk, and thank you so much, Ritchse.
Gracias.
Let's do a little quick round of applause. Yay.